Welcome, sleepless spirit. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to guide you gently into the shadows of slumber, where dreams take over and worries fade away. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more bedtime tales, whispered just for you. Let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it as you listen tonight? And if there's a story you've been longing to hear, something spooky, something comforting, tell me. I'm always listening. Now, tuck yourself in. Let the darkness wrap around you like a warm blanket. It's time to let go and drift into the story. I was resting in a motel outside of Memphis at 2 a.m. when the text message arrived. The message was particular, but the number was unknown. Carl Mitchell is ill. For his route, a replacement driver is required. Pickup time, 6 a.m. Bay 12 of the warehouse district. Verify receipt. I'd been awaiting a call back from this logistics business for 3 weeks. It paid well. I needed the labor, and the routes were solid. I responded to the text. Verified. We'll be there. The reaction was instantaneous. The truck is full. Dropbox keys. Run straight to Atlanta. Delivery by noon. Avoid opening cargo. Never stray from the path. SDA NDARD guidelines. Emergency replacements do occur, even though the urgency seems strange for a text sent in the middle of the night. Drivers become ill. Trucks must move, and that's how you establish your dependability in this field. At 5:45 in the morning, I reached the warehouse. At that hour, the industrial sector was largely deserted. There are only a few semis parked at different loading bays. A truck with a typical 53-foot refrigerated trailer was idling in Bay 12. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Keys were in the Dropbox that was affixed to the warehouse wall. Just as promised, my pre-trip inspection was completed. Good tires. The lights are on. The trailer was sealed with the security tag still in place. In the cab was the lighting bill. Medications that are refrigerated. Memphis can be picked up. Atlanta delivery. A signature is necessary. Clear the paperwork. Names of legitimate businesses. Everything appeared to be in order. The cab smelt strange as I got inside. It's off, like cleaning agents attempting to hide something else, but not horrible. Someone taller than me had had the driver's seat changed. Additionally, I sensed something sticky on the lever when I pushed it forward. I examined my hand. Sticky, dark residue that isn't quite dried. It might have been grease or oil, but neither appeared to be the case. After wiping it off with a rag, I got behind the wheel. I traveled through downtown Memphis before getting on I-40 East. I made good time because there wasn't much traffic in the morning. Around mile marker 15, when the sun rose, I realized the silver automobile was still 3 car lengths behind me. 410 meters. The same distance and lane position apply. It was always the same. I switched lanes and it did the same. It accelerated when I accelerated to test it. It also slowed down when I did. I discovered I didn't have the logistics company's number as I reached for my phone to call them. The sender of the text was unknown, and my attempt to respond was unsuccessful. The number is not operational. My stomach grew constricted. I looked for the firm name by pulling it up from the lighting bill. With its expertly designed layout, client endorsements, and fleet images, the website appeared authentic. However, when I dialed the number provided, I was immediately connected to a generic voicemail that omitted the name of the business. I was still behind the silver sedan. One of the 2 people in the front seats was holding something up to their face, and I could see them now. A camera or binoculars. I made a snap decision when I noticed the signage for the rest area at mile marker 35. Without giving a signal, I walked out, waiting to see if the vehicle would follow. Yes, it did. The restroom was almost deserted. Just a pickup vehicle and to a VS. I parked far from the other cars and bided my time. With its engine going, the vehicle arrived and parked at the far end. No one left. I sat there for I watched them for 5 minutes. Then, with the truck in the background, I got out and headed for the restroom. I turned around as soon as I stepped inside and looked out the window. The sedan had shifted. The trailer was now stopped right next to my truck. and one of the people inside was strolling around it without giving it a cursory inspection. They were checking the underside, looking at the security seal, and snapping pictures with their phone. I pushed the door open. "Am I able to assist you?" She soon straightened up, a woman in her 30s dressed in business casual. "Is this the truck you own?" "Yes." "Carl Mitchell. Why are you?" My mouth became parched. "No, I'm the driver in place." Mitchell made a sick call. She and her partner looked at each other and was exiting the car at this point. It was a warm morning, but he was elderly, perhaps 50, and wore a jacket. "Who informed you of Mitchell's illness?" The female inquired. "The business. At 2 in the morning, they sent me a text." "Which business?" I gave her the bill of lading's name. She showed me the screen of her phone after typing something. 3 days ago, there was a news report on this company. A local logistics company looked into possible fraud. Assets are frozen. The business from my documents, I claimed that was not feasible. I recently got it from their storage facility. Which warehouse? I handed the address to her. She typed once more. It had been 6 months since that building was abandoned. The city denounced it. The man moved in closer. "Have you checked the cargo? It's sealed. Medications based on the manifest. You must open it for us." "I am unable to. The seal is broken by that. If I open it right away or we contact the police, I lose my CDL." Her voice had become rough and flat. I thought she wasn't bluffing because of something in her tone. Taking out my knife, I went to the rear of the trailer and sliced through the security seal. It was easy to turn the latch, too readily, as if it had just been opened and then closed, again without locking. I opened the door. There was nothing in the trailer, utterly devoid. No cargo at all, no pallets, no medications, only a spotless refrigerated trailer with an inactive cooling unit. "Where's the cargo?" My voice trembled as I asked. Both the man and the woman were now talking softly on their phones. I caught pieces, verified to be empty, and must confirm the pickup address. And the driver says he was unaware. "Who are you people?" I insisted. The woman gave me a look. "For this job, who got in touch with you?" "I informed you. I received a text from the company." "Show me." I took my phone out. The text thread had vanished. All of the messages from that unidentified number had vanished from my phone. If they had never been there. Desperately, I said. It was here. Everything, the instructions, the texts. Between me and the truck, the man moved. "Carl Mitchell. What happened to him?" "I'm not sure. They claimed that he was ill. 4 days ago, Carl Mitchell passed away. Highway 78 has a single car collision. At 3 in the morning, his truck broke down. He hesitated. His cargo was never located. The world swayed. For stability, I grasped the trailer door. I had no idea. I swear I had no idea. Someone was aware of your job search." The female said, "Your phone number was known to someone. A driver who wouldn't ask questions was needed." She surveyed the deserted trailer. "The question is, did they need you to be in this truck at this very moment? Or did they need you to move something?" It wasn't until I heard the distant sirens approaching that I realized what she was talking about. The man said softly, "We haven't called them yet. However, someone had." The woman retreated in the direction of their automobile. "Now is the time to make a decision. Are you leaving or are you going back in that truck? I've done nothing incorrectly. It's possible that a deceased man owns that truck. Someone may have set you up to be driving the vehicle when the police came. And the cargo you were meant to be delivering may include evidence in an ongoing investigation." She opened the door of her automobile. "We're heading out. You ought to. Who are you?" She didn't respond. I was standing next to an empty truck that I had been paid to drive by a company that no longer existed when the sedan left the rest area and vanished back onto the highway. The sound of the sirens was increasing. I glanced at my phone with the missing texts, at the empty trailer, and at the vehicle keys in my hand. The setting, the time, and the place had all been carefully planned by someone. However, for what purpose? Was the purpose of the empty trailer to set me up for something, to divert attention while something else took place, or both? Was there nothing I was supposed to deliver? And in some way, the nothing itself was important. The sirens were not far away. I made up my mind now. I climbed into the vehicle, turned on the motor, and re-entered the highway, in the direction of the closest truck stop, where there would be cameras, witnesses, and other drivers, rather than Atlanta, in a public setting where the intended event could not occur. To state trooper vehicles pulled into the rest area I had just left, as I could see in my mirror. Where my truck had been, they would discover an empty parking spot. There was nothing, so they wouldn't find anything, unless it was the original plan. After a further hour of driving, I pulled into a huge Flying J truck stop. I pulled into the restaurant where 30 other truckers were eating breakfast, parked under the brightest lights, and got out, accountable, visible, and safe. I dialed my former dispatcher, with whom I had previously collaborated before to the onset of the slow season, told him about the truck, the empty trailer, the text, everything. "Never again touch that truck," he said. "Stay away from it. That isn't a real position. It's a prelude. What is the setup for? I'm not sure, but someone wanted you in Carl Mitchell's pickup after he passed away. It's no accident." I glanced at the truck parked in the lot outside the restaurant window. The trailer was empty, the papers appeared authentic, and the keys fit flawlessly. A ghost job for a dead driver from a dead company. I saw the news report 3 days later. Another truck that fit my description was discovered by authorities at a Tennessee rest stop. Trailer registered to Carl Mitchell, empty, and without a driver. According to the article, they were looking into it in relation to several cargo thefts that occurred around the southeast. However, that truck wasn't mine. After leaving mine at the Flying J, I turned to leave, unless there were several trucks, replacement drivers, and personnel being set up, or unless someone moved it after I left. The identity of the man and woman in the silver vehicle remained a mystery to me. Perhaps private detectives, or something else. They were the first to know about Mitchell. Before I even picked up that truck, they were tracking it. Last week, I received a fresh text. The format is the same, but the number is different. Driver required. Urgent replacement. Receipt confirmed. I wonder how many other drivers responded, but I didn't. How many trucks are currently on the road with empty trailers and perplexed drivers who believe they are performing real work? When they get at their destinations, I wonder what would happen as they discover that the delivery was never about the cargo. Perhaps the driver was always the focus. Perhaps the driver was always the focus. Someone had been in my taxi while I was asleep, and I discovered this when I woke up at a truck stop outside of Amarillo. There was nothing lacking. It was evident to me that nothing had been moved. The passenger seat was pushed back more than I usually keep it, and there was a little aftershave or cologne-like odor that I had not noticed when I had gone to bed 4 hours earlier. The doors were locked by me. The passenger side was unlocked when I checked. Even though I normally lock the doors, it appeared as though someone had unlocked it from the inside because the lock button was in the up position. As I glanced around the taxi, my heart was racing. The middle console still held my wallet. I'd left my phone behind. Everything was unaltered, including the registration and logbook. However, someone had been present. I was dozing 3 feet away when someone sat in my passenger seat. After getting out, I circled the truck. There are no indications of forced entry or scratches on the locks. There were several people in the parking lot. Perhaps 20 more trucks and VS cars are arriving and departing. No one had cared or noticed if someone had broken in. Above the truck stop entrance, I looked at the security camera. The fuel was at an angle, not the parking lot, but the pumps. There is no assistance. I tried to tell myself I had dreamed it as I climbed back into the taxi. In my sleep, I might have unlocked the door myself. Perhaps that was how the seat had always been. Even though I had been in this truck for 3 months, I knew better than to assume that the scent was from the prior driver. This place had been visited. I delivered my load, went to Oklahoma City, and made an effort to get rid of the sensation. However, parked at a separate truck stop that evening, I was cautious. I double-checked both doors, locked them, and used my duffel bag as a makeshift alarm by pressing it against the passenger door. The bag would fall out and wake me if someone opened it. At 3 in the morning, I awoke to silence. On the ground was the duffel bag. The passenger door was unlocked, and the seat was repositioned, pushed back even more, as if a taller person had been occupying it. A receipt from the truck stop eatery was a fresh addition to the dashboard. 13 minutes ago. The timestamp was to 47 a.m. cash, 4 pie and coffee. The diner had not been visited by me. I had been sleeping in my truck, which was locked, but like a calling card, someone had gone to the diner, placed an order, paid for it, and left the receipt in my taxi. I picked up my phone and dialed the office at the truck stop. This is the driver in space 34 of the blue Freightliner. In the past hour, did you observe anyone close to my truck? It sounded like the night cashier was bored. We have cameras on the fuel pumps, but not the entire lot, sir. If you have any stolen property, you must report it. There was no theft. While I slept, someone got into my truck. Are the doors locked? Indeed. Then I am at a loss for words. Perhaps you didn't lock them. After hanging up, I gazed at the receipt. From my parking spot, I could see the bright diner 50 yards away. A waitress was pouring coffee at the counter, and I could see inside a couple of truckers. A typical late-night truck stop. I exited and approached with my receipt. When she noticed me approaching, the waitress grinned. Have you forgotten something? Did you use my truck to serve anyone? Approximately 20 minutes ago, I presented her the receipt. She glanced first at me, then at the receipt. I thought that was you. No, I was in my vehicle sleeping. Well, this was ordered. She paid with cash, sat at the counter for about 5 minutes, pointed to the timestamp, and then walked out. I assumed you were the one. Same build, same jacket. She hesitated. The same face. In fact, that's why I didn't give it any thought. My blood froze. You mean the same face? Appeared exactly like you. In the dark from across the counter, I'm not implying it was your twin or anything. It might have been you. In a few days, I walked back to my pickup. A person that resembled me had visited the diner, placed an order for food, made a cash payment, and went back to my truck. They managed to get inside a truck even though the doors were locked. Additionally, they had done it when I was inside sleeping. It occurred 3 more times in the following week. The pattern is consistent across states and truck stops. When I would awaken, I would discover the door unlocked, the passenger seat changed, and a little indication that someone had been there. A crumpled napkin, another receipt. There was a pen on the dashboard that I had never seen before. I began taking my required rest breaks throughout the day at crowded truck stops where there were witnesses and people present, and I stopped sleeping at night. But fatigue was getting the better of me. I needed to know what was going on, and I needed to sleep. I installed a little motion-activated camera on the passenger seat after purchasing it. I'd have video if someone got in. I made myself go to sleep that night while I was parked at a rest area near Missouri. At 2:33 a.m., a gentle beep from the camera roused me up. There was motion. To check the stream, I reached for my phone and opened the app. The passenger door stood open. In the passenger seat was someone, slumped shoulders, back to the camera. I could make out the contour of their jacket and the outline of their head in the weak parking lot light. They simply occupied the space while sitting motionless. Instead of facing this individual head-on, I was glued to my bunk, about 5 feet away, watching them on my phone. Every muscle in my body begged me to shout, to move, to take action. However, I was unable to. 30 seconds or so later, the figure reached forward and pushed the seat back. After that, they quietly locked the door after getting out. I saw the door close through the webcam. Then nothing. I waited for 5 full minutes before getting up, getting out of the bunk, checking the locks, and turning on the cab lights. From the inside, both doors were locked. The passenger seat was moved back all the way. I watched the video. It wasn't exactly the correct angle. The person's shoulders and back were visible to me, but not their face. Dark jacket, medium height, either black or brown. They appeared to know exactly what they were doing, as they walked slowly and deliberately. I saw the video 20 times in search of specifics. I saw something that made my skin crawl on the 21st occasion. For a brief period, the person's hand was visible in the parking lot light streaming through the windows as they stretched forward to adjust the seat. They had the same type and brand of watch on their left wrist as I had. I glanced at the same watch on my own wrist. I focused on the video, attempting to see more clearly. The jacket also had a familiar appearance. It was identical to the one I was wearing in terms of color and style. I remembered the waitress's words. The same face, the same build, the same jacket. I began cautiously asking around at truck stops. Is anyone else experiencing issues with break-ins? Are you sleeping and someone is getting into your taxi? The majority of drivers thought I was paranoid. Some acknowledged that they have experienced missing items. There was no indication of someone merely occupying their passenger seat. Then I went to a Flying J in Tennessee and met an elderly driver. He drew me aside after overhearing me inquire about security cameras with the cashier. Your truck has someone in it, he stated. There was no question. How did you find out? Since I experienced it myself. Prior to my long-term retirement 3 years ago, every several evenings I'd know someone had been there when I woke up. Just rearranged. Nothing taken. Subtle, little things. He spoke more softly, and occasionally I would spot them in windows or mirrors. Someone who was not me, but had my appearance. What did you do? I stopped driving at night and only drove during the day on local routes. I haven't experienced any issues since. He gave me a serious look. Whatever is going on, it's connected to the long hauls and overnight runs where you're traveling alone for days at a time. However, why? What are they seeking? I'm not sure. However, I will share my thoughts with you. They appear to be getting ready for something as they practice getting into vehicles, sitting in taxis, and learning the procedures. Before I could ask him any more questions, he left. 2 weeks have passed since that conversation. Since then, I've been driving during the day. Nothing overnight, only local delivery. The situation came to an end. No more receipts. No more seats that have been moved, and no more proof that the passenger stayed overnight. However, I received a call from my former dispatcher 3 days ago. I have a problem. I need you to run to Phoenix overnight. I'm going tonight. Jennings is in the hospital, but he was meant to do it. How did Jennings fare? Strange mishap. He claims to have slept off at the wheel around 2 in the morning. Here's the problem, though. Before the police stopped it, his truck continued to travel 40 meters, while staying in its lane and maintaining speed. Over. During the sleeper berth, Jennings was not cognizant. There is no one behind the wheel. My mouth became parched. No one is operating a vehicle. They said as much. The truck was moving as if someone had been operating it before they vanished. He hesitated. In any case, are you participating in the Phoenix run? No, I replied. I informed him that I had finished using overnight routes. He found someone else, but he wasn't content. I saw the news report yesterday. On a New Mexico roadway, another truck was discovered abandoned. The driver is not there. The truck continued to drive until its fuel ran out, reaching 70 miles per hour in the right lane. No explanation, no indication of the driver. The missing driver's photo was featured on the news. He had a familiar appearance. I have the same build and age range. It might have been my brother. In a different setting, that may have been me. I no longer go for overnight runs. My truck isn't where I sleep. I keep thinking about what that older driver said. So even though it reduces my earnings, I now rent motel rooms. They're getting ready for something by practicing. Additionally, I can't stop thinking about the drivers who vanished from trucks that continued to operate without them. I wonder whether they discovered someone in their passenger seat when they woke up one night. Before they disappeared, I wonder if they caught a glimpse of the person's face. Perhaps they saw that the face in the mirror wasn't a stranger when they gazed in it. I received a text message from an unidentified number last week. Only 2 words. At night change. I understand what it means, but I didn't answer. They continue to wait and observe. I'll eventually have to run overnight again. I'll eventually be too exhausted, too irresponsible, or too desperate to work, and I might eventually see who has been seated there the entire time when I wake up at 2 in the morning to discover the passenger seat changed once more. After 3 weeks on the new route, I began to notice them, trucks that precisely mirrored my motions rather than following me. The first time was in Oklahoma on I-40. I saw a truck in my left mirror while I was traveling at 65 miles per hour in the right lane. My model and make are the same, but the business colors are different. That's nothing out of the ordinary. However, it changed lanes at the exact same time as I did. It changed its speed when I changed mine. We moved and timed exactly the same way, as if we were in sync. I turned on my signal after testing it and tapping my brakes, which caused the other truck's brake lights to flash simultaneously. Its signal activated simultaneously. We drove in perfect unison for 5 miles, neither leading nor following, but simply moving in unison as if we were bound together by unseen threads. Then it abruptly left, leaving me by myself once more. It was only a coincidence, I told myself. It just so happened that our driving habits were similar. However, it occurred once more on I-70 in Kansas 2 days later. The same flawless coordination, but a new truck and firm. This one followed me for 30 meters before vanishing into a rest area. It was in Missouri the third time that I became frightened. It wasn't only no longer just one truck. 3 o'clock. Every single trailer and every single company matched my every move with mechanical accuracy. They also slowed down when I did. They went by at the same moment as I did. It was similar to staring at reflections rather than other cars. Then I reached for my CB radio. Is anyone else observing this? 3 trucks are following me around. Over. Not moving. Then a voice. Repeat. What are you doing with your trucks? Observing my precise motions. Shifting lanes. Everything is the same when I change lanes. A minute of stillness. Buddy, for the past 10 miles, I have been observing the highway. All I see is your truck. I examined my mirrors. The 3 trucks were in formation right there. They are currently in my mirrors. 2 in the neighboring lanes. 1 behind me. You're seeing trucks in your mirrors that aren't there. Perhaps you should stop and take a break. I cut the call short and concentrated on driving. I spent an additional hour with the trucks. Then they peeled out at various exits one by one. I was by myself once more when I arrived at my location. However, I was unable to sleep that night when parked at a truck stop. I couldn't get the CB voice out of my head. All I see is your truck. How could I see 3 trucks, but other drivers couldn't see them? I began recording them. I would record the time, place, and duration each time I spotted a mirror truck. I recorded 17 distinct events over the course of the following 2 weeks. 5 trucks at times, sometimes only 1. They always had the same flawless coordination, even when they appeared on different roadways and at different times of day. I also took note of something else. The trucks were never full. Some of them lack corporate insignia. Trailers are unmarked, and the windows are tinted to darkly for drivers to see. They had the appearance of being genuine enough, physical, substantial, and moving, but they also had a hollow, shell-like quality. One attempted to take some photos. Everything else was incredibly clear, yet every picture was blurry, with the mirror vehicles only appearing as smudges in the frame. I tried video, but it didn't work. Where the trucks should be, there is distortion and static. Everywhere else, it was crystal clear. I asked other drivers if they had encountered anything similar at a truck stop in Arkansas. One senior driver pulled me away as the other stared at me as if I were insane. In your mirrors, do you see them? Quietly, he asked. Yes, constantly now. Slowly, he nodded. I also spotted them. I used to run the same routes you do today 10 years ago. Began modestly, with a single truck here and there, then increasingly more, until occasionally there were a dozen of them, all moving precisely like me. What are they? I discovered a trend, but I'm not sure. They only show up when you're by yourself. Long highways with only you and the road, no other traffic, at which point they appear. Why? He paused. I believe kids need someone to mirror and mimic them as they map, learn routes, learn patterns, and learn how actual trucks operate. He gave me a serious look. I stopped taking that route, switched to local deliveries, and never again drove those lengthy, deserted highways. Then the mirror trucks came to a halt. What would happen if you continued? I'm not sure. No one I ever met continued to drive long enough to find out. I was left with more questions than answers once he left. I should have taken a different path and paid attention to his warning, but I had to have the money. I continued to drive because the route paid nicely. The mirror trucks started to appear consistently. Every journey, several trucks, always in harmony. I grew accustomed to them and gave up attempting to cease asking other drivers about them, and instead took pictures of them. They were now merely rest breaks or mile markers along the road. Then one evening, a change occurred. Around 2 a.m., I was traveling through New Mexico on a deserted section of I-40. Only my headlights pierced the darkness. There was no other traffic. The trucks with mirrors showed up. This time, there were 4 of them in perfect formation around me. Typical pattern, nothing out of the ordinary. However, one of them was approaching. One of the lorries was gradually closing the distance between us in my right mirror. Still synchronized, not following, and traveling at my precise pace. However, the distance seemed to be becoming closer, as if it were phasing across space. From 50 feet to 40 feet, I saw it close. To 30, my grip tightened around the steering wheel. The truck remained perfectly in sync. It touched its brakes when I touched mine. Its brake lights flickered simultaneously as I changed my grasp, but it continued to approach. 20 feet 15 inches. I should be able to see the driver via the windshield now that I'm close enough. However, the cab was deserted and dark. There is no one behind the wheel. The truck was following my every step and getting closer by the mile. 10 feet, 5 feet. At this point, it was practically touching my trailer. Details were visible in my reflection. The hood, the grille, and the blank windshield. And my blood froze when I knew something. It was more than just a pickup like mine. It was the same. The bumper has the same scratches. I hit a deer 2 months ago, and the ding in the hood is the same. The wheel wells have the same mud pattern. My truck wasn't being mirrored. It was absolutely replicating it. I picked up speed. The truck kept its 5-foot space as it accelerated alongside me. I shifted lanes. It stayed stuck to my position as it changed lanes, and I saw it get closer and closer in my reflection. 3T, 4T. After that, I noticed something in its cab. Moving in the driver's seat is a shadow. Where I sat, there was a form. I couldn't see hands on a wheel, operating a vehicle that shouldn't be there. The form cocked its head. I briefly noticed a face in the mirror in the background light from my tail lights. My face wears my expression, my weary eyes, and my precise stance as it looks at me through 2 sets of glass and through an impossibly large expanse. Tires squealing, I swerved onto the shoulder and jerked the wheel. In perfect time, the mirror truck swerved alongside me. We drove side by side on the shoulder for 3 seconds. A pair of identical vehicles traveling together. Then I slammed the brakes. At precisely the same moment, the mirror truck applied its brakes. Together, we came to a stop and sat on the shoulder in perfect parallel for 10 or so seconds, our engines idling in time. I just gazed in my passenger mirror, at the truck next to me, at the truck that was me, waiting to see what it would do. I was immobile and unable to breathe. It began to move first, then retracted upon the highway, effortlessly accelerated, and drove off. I saw its tail lights fade as it vanished into the night. The other mirror trucks had also vanished. Me by myself on the shoulder, attempting to make sense of what I had witnessed. For the remainder of that night, I didn't drive. I sat in my cab till daybreak, doors closed, lights on, and checking my mirrors every few seconds after pulling into the next truck stop. 3 weeks have passed since then. I informed my dispatcher that I was leaving long haul and switching to local routes. He attempted to dissuade me. I was a dependable and competent driver. I was needed on the road. I didn't give a damn. I was finished. I can't quit thinking about this. though, I heard anything during those 10 seconds on the shoulder when both trucks were still and idle. Through my open window, a sound drifted on the wind from the direction of the mirror truck. It was my voice on my CB radio, discussing the weather, traffic, and delivery times that I had discussed with my dispatcher earlier in the day. Dead on time, word for word. I was speaking from a truck with no one inside. They're doing more than merely mimicking motions. They are learning, recording, and replicating everything, creating flawless duplicates of my origins, voice, features, and patterns. I have no idea why. I consider what the older driver said, but I'm not sure what happens when they've learned enough. No one I ever met continued to drive long enough to find out. Perhaps this is due to the fact that the drivers who continued to drive are no longer drivers, as something else replaces them in the real world. They might be the ones in the mirror trucks now, stuck in reflections, continuing to drive the routes they were unable to abandon. Yesterday, I received a call from my former dispatcher. We have one more run for you. One more journey. Emergency freight. Same route. Nice compensation. No, I replied. I told him I'd finished. Done for good. Though he appeared disappointed. He comprehended. Then my dispatcher called me again this morning. Same words, same voice. We have one more run for you. One more journey. Emergency freight. Same route. Nice compensation. He called back repeatedly after I hung up. The exact same phrases, tone, and pause between sentences are used consistently. It's supposed to be different, like a recording, like something that has learned to be him, but doesn't fully comprehend communication. I blocked the number, but because I've been obsessively monitoring my mirrors since the break of day, I know that won't stop it. Additionally, I keep seeing my own truck parked on the other side of the street. The ding, the scratches, everything is the same. The cab is empty, there is no driver, and I am waiting while mirroring my stance without moving. Additionally, my neighbor reported that she's seen me leaving for work at 6 in the morning yesterday. However, I stayed yesterday. I spent the entire day at home. She did a wonderful job of describing me when I asked her to describe what she saw. My truck, my clothes, and my walk. My route is currently being driven by something that resembles me in appearance, sound, and movement, and I'm beginning to question whether I'm the mirror truck or the original, and the true me is still traveling through the night on I-40, seeing myself reflected in the mirrors again. This time, the directions were different. It was detailed in ways that unnerved me, but not necessarily incorrect. For 2 years, I had been hauling for Westridge Logistics, primarily doing standard deliveries to warehouses and distribution facilities. Standard medical supplies were being picked up from an Ohio facility and transported to a hospital in rural Pennsylvania. The delivery instructions were strange, but there was nothing out of the ordinary about the cargo or the route. They are often basic. Get to the loading dock, sign, and then unload. The instructions were 3 pages long this time. Arrive between 2 o'clock and 2:30 in the morning. No earlier nor later. Use the north side service entrance. Avoid using the main entrance. Avoid interacting with hospital employees. Observe the signs that are marked. Unique delivery featuring red arrows. Deliver to basement level room B12. Make 3 knocks. Await the doors opening. Don't go into the room. Don't inquire. As soon as you have unloaded, depart. I felt more and more anxious as I read them twice. The time was exact, and the need of being quiet was emphasized. The delivery from the basement, it seemed more like instructions for something secret than logistics. I dialed my dispatcher. These delivery guidelines don't seem normal. Are you certain this is real? Which employment number is it? I handed it to him. He hesitated and typed, yes. The system has it. Special precautions should be taken when handling delicate medical equipment. Hospitals can have particular protocols for particular deliveries. Simply adhere to the directions precisely. Why must it be between 2 and 3:30 in the morning? Most likely to prevent getting in the way of regular hospital operations. C. Do you want the job? The overnight deliveries paid for in time and a half. I needed the cash. Yes, I'll accept it. The journey to Pennsylvania went smoothly. At 1:45 a.m., I arrived at the hospital and parked in a truck stop 2 miles away to wait. The hospital was a sizable regional establishment with perhaps 5 stories, brightly illuminated, with a busy entrance that can be seen from the street. Night operations at the hospital are regular. I spotted the service door on the north side, away from the main structure. When I drove to the hospital, 158A, it was dimly lit, with a covered walkway separating it from the main building. At the entryway was a lone security camera, flickering red light. At precisely 2:04 a.m., I retreated to the door. I saw the red arrows indicated in the directions as soon as I stepped out of my taxi. There are tiny, hand-painted marks on the walls that lead deeper into the structure from the service door. They didn't resemble official hospital signage. They seemed temporary. The door to the service entrance was unlocked. After propping it open, I began emptying. Medical equipment in sealed boxes with technical names labeled on them made up the load. I didn't identify. About 30 cartons in all, weighing perhaps 200 pounds each, were heavy enough to need a hand truck. Through the service corridor, I followed the red arrows. Fluorescent lights buzzed above the vacant halls. Just spotless white walls with that hospital odor of disinfectant and floor wax. No employees, no patients. I followed the arrows to a B-level stairs. Only authorized personnel. It was chilly in the basement. Older infrastructure, concrete walls, and the type of area used by hospitals for mechanical systems and storage. The red arrows persisted, guiding me through a confusing network of hallways that didn't seem to be necessary. Left, right, left again via a door leading to a still older part with dingy lighting and exposed pipes. At the end of a lengthy hallway was room B12. The door was more recent than the others, made of metal rather than wood, and had a keypad lock that was not in use at the moment. There was no nameplate, no window, and no indication of the purpose of the chamber. Only B12 was stenciled in black paint on the door. As directed, I knocked 3 times and waited. I heard footsteps coming toward the door after maybe 30 seconds, and then there was stillness. They didn't open it, but there was someone waiting on the other side. I knocked 3 times more. A clear, albeit muffled, voice entered through the door. Get out of the boxes and go on. To confirm delivery, I need a signature. No signature. Get out of the boxes and go on. Something was amiss with the voice now. Too controlled, too bland. Like someone reading from a script or making a concerted effort to hide their feelings. I need a delivery confirmation, per my directions. After a long period of silence, check your mobile device. I took my phone out. An unknown number sent a text message. Delivery has been verified. Go now. I gazed at the text. They knew my number. But how? Before I had even unpacked. How did they email the confirmation? How did you get out of the boxes? The tone of the voice had become more forceful, with a hint of urgency or warning. Returned by following the red arrows. Don't stray. Keep all other doors closed. Get out of the building right away. My gut urged me to inquire. Insist on following the correct protocol and see into that room. But I took a step back because of something in that voice. I hurriedly unloaded the boxes, piled them in front of the door, and headed back down the corridor. I heard maybe 20 feet. Behind me, the door opened. I thought I would see someone picking up the boxes. The corridor, however, was deserted. The boxes had vanished. In the seconds after I turned my head away, all 30 of them disappeared. Once more, the door to B12 was shut. I sped up, going backwards with. The red arrows, straight through the door, left, right. The arrows had a new appearance, as if they had been moved. A few were positioned differently than I recalled. There were some clear instructions that weren't in line with my route. I took what I believed to be the right turn and ended up in a part of the basement I had never seen before. There are no red arrows here. Only decrepit corridors with doors marked with out-of-date department names and ceilings discolored with water. I tried to go back the way I had come, but the hallway behind me appeared longer and darker. It buzzed on my phone. The unidentified number sent another SMS. Pay attention to the arrows. Avoid exploring. Go now. How did they find me? A security camera was in the corner, its red light steady and accusing. When I looked up, there was a spectator. I located and followed a red arrow, then another. The route was different from the previous one. It led me through parts of the basement that appeared to be older and older, as if I were retracing the history of the hospital. Clean floors gave way to decades of grime. New concrete gave way to old brick, and sophisticated lighting fixtures gave way to naked bulbs. I went by a door that was just a little bit ajar. I looked inside against my better judgment. There were perhaps 50 medical beds in the storage area, all of them in use. However, the residents weren't in motion. They simply lay still, facing the ceiling, waiting, in the darkness. Now I continued to walk more quickly. The red arrows took me along a corridor I had never used before and up another stairs. I finally located the service entrance, though, and forced my way through it into the chilly night air. I remembered exactly where I'd left my truck. With a firm click, the service entrance door shut behind me. With trembling hands on the wheel, I climbed into my taxi and drove off. I took out my phone and dialed my dispatcher at the truck stop. Although the delivery is finished, I must note something odd regarding jobs that have already been closed out. He cut me off. Everything is logged. Payment has been completed, and delivery has been verified. Well done. However, I must explain the basement's instructions to you. No specific instructions are on file with me. Appears in this instance as a typical delivery to the receiving department. I take it you dropped off at the loading dock. No. I went to room B12 in the basement. Quiet. Our birth logs don't include room B12, and the hospital doesn't use the basement for deliveries. The primary receiving pier handles everything. However, the instructions made it clear that I was currently looking at the job sheet. SDA/NDARD guidelines. Dock for loading. Completed the signature. No mention of a basement. He hesitated. Are you feeling all right? Before your next run, you might want to take a nap. After hanging up, I retrieved the text messages from the unidentified number. They had vanished. The whole exchange has been removed from my phone as if it hadn't been there. I returned to the hospital by car. I located the service entrance on the north side during the day. The rusted, locked door seemed as if it had not been opened in years. No signs of recent use. No red arrows on the walls. The lens on the security camera had been dead for an unknown amount of time. I looked outside for the basement entrance. According to the mortar state, there were windows at ground level that should have shown the basement, but were bricked over and sealed decades ago. I inquired about room B12 at the main desk of the hospital. Receptionist looked through her directory. A B level is not something we have. The hospital isn't numbered with rooms and simply has basement storage that maintenance can access. What about nighttime special medical deliveries? Our main receiving department receives all deliveries, day or night. No deliveries are accepted through any other entrance. She gave me an inquisitive look. Have you been instructed to deliver somewhere else? I walked away without responding. 4 weeks have passed since then. My account was credited with the delivery money. The system closed out the job. It was a routine delivery at a routine place, according to all government documents. However, I still have questions that no one can respond to. Where did I deliver, if not to the basement of the hospital? What was behind that door, as there was no room B12? How did I enter the service entrance if it had been locked 4 years? Worst of all, who stole those 30 medical equipment boxes? For what purpose were they actually used? With all those beds in use, what was in that storage room? Last week, I received another delivery task. Distinct hospital, distinct state. Although the guidelines were comparable, no inquiries, time and a half pay, service entrance, basement delivery, and the specified time window. I declined. However, that same week, 3 other drivers from my firm accepted comparable positions. I have inquired about it. According to 2, they just recall routine deliveries to loading docks and nothing out of the ordinary. 2 days following his delivery, the third driver resigned, refuses to answer calls. I won't elaborate on why the business continues to assign these assignments. The instructions consistently follow the same pattern, regardless of the hospitals and cities. Always at a certain time, always overnight, always a basement that isn't really there. I received a call from an unidentified number last night. I didn't respond, just breathing. Then a single sentence in that flat, controlled voice from room B12 was all that was left in the voicemail. I appreciate the delivery. Next month, we'll require another one. The same guidelines. Don't stray. I no longer work for that organization. I've shifted to day shifts, local routes, and nothing overnight. However, I occasionally drive by hospitals and find myself searching for service entrances, red arrows, and basement windows that ought to be present but aren't. And I wonder how many other drivers are already carrying out those directives, delivering to basements that were sealed off decades ago, to rooms that don't exist, to individuals who thank them via locked doors and erase their records. What exactly are they delivering? I wonder. What happens to drivers who ask too many questions? I wonder. Who ask too many questions? I wonder. There is a turnaround point on every route, the place where you pause, take a break, and return to your starting point. Mine took place in a truck stop in western Nebraska, just off I-80, precisely midway between my delivery in Omaha and my pickup in Denver. For 6 months, I had been going to the same location twice a week, same parking spot, same pump, up to the day I saw the message on my windshield, the same routine. It had only 5 words written in tidy block letters on simple white paper that had been folded once and was tucked under my wiper. This time, don't turn around. I surveyed the parking area. 30 trucks. Typical crowd at a truck stop. I could see no one watching me. I threw the note away after crumpling it. The entire drive to Omaha troubled me, but it was probably a prank by some bored kids. Why that particular message? This time, don't turn around, which implied that I typically did, and that someone was following me. I attempted to persuade myself that it was arbitrary and pointless, but the phrasing was too exact. The same route, same turning point, 2 days later. Also, continue heading east. Don't stop right here. I didn't discard it this time. I showed the counter clerk after bringing it inside. Who put this on my truck? Do you see? She gave it a fleeting glance. That area of the lot is not covered by cameras. It might have been anyone. The second one is this one. My schedule is being watched by someone. She gave a shrug. Do you want me to give someone a call? I nearly replied in the affirmative. But what would I report? I have the notes advising me to alter my course. It was unnerving, but hardly a crime. 2 days after making my delivery, I returned. I parked somewhere different from where I usually do this time. However, there was another note on my windshield when I emerged from the restroom. One last caution. Proceed directly through. You'll know why if you stop again. As I read it, my hands trembled. I had moved, but they had still located me. Now they were observing. It had to be. I looked at the structure, the parking lot, and the other trucks. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just regular people going about their daily lives. I dialed my dispatcher. Threatening notes are being sent to me at the Nebraska turnaround. My stops are being tracked by someone. How is it threatening? I read the messages to him. He remains silent for a while. It's strange, but I'm not sure if it poses a real threat. Perhaps someone is attempting to assist you. What can you help me with? I'm not sure. Hey, would you like to report something to the State Patrol? I considered it. How would I respond? Is someone advising me to continue driving in their notes? They would believe I was wasting their time or delusional. I'll simply alter my turning point. No. Take advantage of the next truck stop. Whatever suits you. Simply adhere to the timetable. I drove past my customary stop on the next trip. I told myself that I was being wise and careful. The next truck stop was 40 miles to the east. It was safer, but less convenient. After I parked, I got some fuel and went inside for coffee. When I returned, there was no note. I felt a wave of relief. Regardless of who was looking, I had broken the pattern. The issue has been resolved. I delivered my package in Omaha and made their way back. I halted at my previous turnaround location this time. Perhaps it was obstinacy. Perhaps I wanted to show that I wasn't afraid. Perhaps all I wanted was my routine. As usual, the parking lot had the same appearance. I parked where I usually do, moved out, and stretched. The windshield has no note on it. Nothing out of the ordinary. It was just another typical afternoon truck stop. I entered, went to the restroom, got some lunch, and took my time, almost defying the idea that someone would leave another letter. My automobile was just as I had left it when I returned 20 minutes later. The truck beside mine, however, wasn't. When I originally started my route 6 months ago, I saw a truck parked in this precise location. It was the same make and model. Its distinctive custom paint dark blue with silver flames was what made me recall it. I had even had a brief conversation with Ree, the driver, who was on his way to Chicago. However, 3 months prior, Ray's truck had been in an accident. Another driver had told me about it. Somewhere in Nebraska at night, hit and run. The driver was slain. Whoever did it was never apprehended. And now, in the very place where Ree used to park, a truck that fit the description was parked next to mine, appearing brand new and unharmed. I moved slowly around it. The license plate was different and lacked the company insignia, but the paint and details were the same. There was no sign of its owner. The cab was empty, and the doors were closed. As I stared at it, a second trucker came up. He responded, "That's a nice rig. Do you know who owns it?" No, although I was aware of a truck that was similar. The driver passed away a few months ago. He gave me a weird look. Which truck? Nothing is parked there. I gestured right toward it. That's right. Silver flames, blue. He looked at the area as he followed my gesture. Man, that spot is empty. Ever since I arrived here, a chill went through my chest. There's no truck in that area, do you? No. Are you all right? Is it necessary for you to sit down? I retreated, climbed into my pickup, and drove off. Went straight through to Denver without stopping, almost expecting to see the blue truck following me, and continuously checking my mirrors. I looked up information regarding Ray's accident as soon as I got home. I discovered a 3-month-old news story. A truck driver was killed in a hit-and-run incident close to I-80 exit 177, 5 miles west of the turnaround point was the location. According to the newspaper, he was hit by another car when he was parked at the truck stop taking his required break. Police thought another truck was involved, but security footage was obscured by bad lighting. The inquiry was still in progress. I enlarged the article's accompanying photo. It displayed Ray's truck at the scene, and I could barely make out another truck in the parking lot in the hazy backdrop. Although details could not be seen due to the incorrect perspective, the silhouette appeared familiar. I contrasted that with pictures of my own vehicle, identical height, profile, and overall form. I retrieved my 3-month-old delivery logs. I had traveled that path on the day Ray died. At that truck stop, I had pulled over. I had parked where I usually do. I didn't recall seeing Ray's truck, but it was near to where he had been parked. Didn't recall any mishaps. I couldn't recall anything out of the ordinary from that day. I looked at the location history on my phone. It verified that I had spent precisely 45 minutes, my typical stop time between 2 o'clock and 2:45 in the morning at that truck stop. According to the newspaper, the accident happened about 2:30 in the morning. Although I had no recollection of it, I would have heard something and seen police, emergency vehicles, and other drivers congregating. Now the notes made sense. This time, don't turn around. Continue traveling east. One last caution. Someone was attempting to tell me not to go there. Perhaps because, despite my inability to recall, they were aware of what I had done, carrying it out. Perhaps because they were aware of the consequences if I continued in the same direction. Or perhaps because I would remember if I made another stop there, and it was risky to recall. I've never returned to that turning point. I moved to the truck stop 40 miles east after reading the notes, and I now utilize it. It has not been questioned by my dispatcher. My schedule is still functional, but occasionally, when I'm driving through that area of Nebraska late at night, I notice headlights behind me that precisely match my speed, just keeping the same distance, neither passing nor following. And I recall the blue truck that was parked there, whether I saw it or not. I recall that when I could plainly see the area was unoccupied, the other motorist said it was. I recall being at the scene of a deadly accident based on my location data. I don't remember seeing it. And I recall those messages, the cautions that ceased to occur when I took a different way. The last piece of advice is that you will see why if you stop again. I don't wish to know why. What transpired that evening 3 months ago is not something I want to know, or why I can't recall it, or whose truck is using my headlights to stalk me at night. All I want to do is drive straight east and never look back. However, I received a new route yesterday, a new start, a different employer, and greater salary. Nebraska is where things change. I-80, exit 177, the same truck stop. I can't think of a solid reason to decline the position, which starts tomorrow, that won't come across as crazy. As a result, I intend to pause at that turning point once more, and perhaps I'll recall what transpired this time. Perhaps another letter will appear on my windshield, or perhaps I'll discover why I was cautioned to avoid it. A road that shouldn't have been there began to appear on my GPS. On my usual run from Phoenix to Albuquerque 3 weeks ago, it showed up. On the map, there is a narrow, grey line that runs roughly half a mile south of I-40. After 2 years of driving this route, I had never seen it before. There was only a line indicating a different route, no name or highway number. The first time, I disregarded it. GPS malfunctions are common, particularly in isolated locations. However, the line persisted on the subsequent trip and the subsequent one, progressively more intricate, as if the map were gradually bringing a route to life. The GPS spoke during my 4th journey. There is an other route, 7 minutes quicker. I studied the map. The mystery road now displayed an exit from I-40, a path across a desert that was deserted, and a return to the interstate 20 meters ahead. There was no exit, but the GPS indicated that it would save time by slicing through the area where the roadway curved north. When I looked at the precise location where the GPS indicated the turnoff, all I could see was a crack in the roadside barrier and a desolate desert. Scrubland with the appearance of tire tracks heading into nothing. No pavement, no signs. The GPS continued suggesting the other route on every trip. Even though I stayed on I-40, there is an 8-minute faster alternative path, like it was attempting to entice me. The time saved continued growing. On the CB, other drivers began to mention it. Is there anyone else observing a ghostly road to the south of I-40? My GPS keeps attempting to direct me there. It had not been taken. No one was aware of its nature. Then I got caught in an accident on my 8th trip. 3 cars are piled up, and the freeways totally blocked. A 4-hour delay is anticipated. I was already in danger of breaking my driving hours because I was already running late. Once more, the GPS spoke. There is an other route. 2 hours would be saved. I glanced at the exit. The barrier is still only partially open. Although there was still no visible road, the GPS now displayed it in great detail that appeared nearly real. Distance markers, street view photos, and even a speed restriction sign. I made a choice that I later came to regret. I went out. I felt strange as soon as I stepped through the barrier breach. The landscape appeared unchanged. Scant flora, distant mountains, and the level desert. But the light had a distinct character, flatter, older, like a snapshot that has been overexposed. The actual road had faded lines, 2 lanes, and was asphalt. Although it appeared to have been there 4 decades, it had been abandoned for an equal amount of time. Just pavement slicing across emptiness, no infrastructure, no reflectors, no signs. My radio stopped working. Dead silence, no FM, no CB, not even static. It wasn't rare for my phone to report no signal in this region. However, the screen was frozen When I attempted to check my GPS, my blue position dot wasn't moving, but the map still displayed the alternate route. I was stuck where I had exited the expressway. I continued to drive. I mean, what else could I do? Despite its look, the road was straight, well maintained, and simple to drive on. However, I didn't spot any other cars. There is no traffic going either way. Only my own tire marks are present. For example, there was a road, but no one utilized it. A truck stopped in front of me after maybe 15 minutes. Or a truck stop, it appeared. A parking lot, a tiny building, and gas stations. But there was something strange about it, like a faded painting. The colors were incorrect and washed out. Gas was listed at $189 per gallon on the price sign. The building's design appeared to be from the 1980s. There was a truck parked there. It's older, like a 20-year-old version of my truck, but it has the same make, model, and company colors. I didn't stop, but I did slow down. I looked at the truck's cab as I went by. In the driver's seat, someone was observing me. Only a silhouette was visible to me. No details. However, they waved their hands slowly up. I picked up speed. The GPS didn't move. No phone signal. No radio. And no means of communication. Just this straight road that goes on forever in the odd flat light of the desert. Then I caught sight of them. For perhaps a mile, there were dozens of trucks parked on either side of the road. They were uniformly placed and facing the same direction. It resembles a timeline of trucking history, with all the past models, various firms, and years. Some appeared to be decades old. Older rigs from the 1970s or 1980s, as well as more modern, but still antiquated models. There was a driver in the cab of every single truck. As I drove by, they were all observing. They are all just sitting there, not moving, awaiting. With my hands firmly gripping the wheel, I tried not to glance at the trucks or their drivers, and instead concentrated on the road ahead. But I could see them in my mirrors. As I passed, dozens of silhouettes turned to look, completely still. The truck line came to an end. The road went straight ahead, deserted once more. For a further hour, I drove without any landmarks, a change in the landscape, or any sign that I was getting somewhere. There was no movement in the sun. The angle of the shadows remained constant. Time seemed to be stuck. At last, I noticed what appeared to be the Ender Junction, where this route rejoined what was thought to be I-40. Old, faded asphalt gave place to a contemporary highway surface. My GPS abruptly unfroze as the illumination returned to normal. Your destination has been reached. However, I was yet to reach my target. I was still hours away from Albuquerque, in the middle of nowhere. I checked the timestamp on the GPS. I had been on the other path for 4 hours. 20 meters takes 4 hours to travel. The GPS's claimed time savings turned out to be the contrary. As soon as I turned back onto I-40, my radio started up again. FM stations, CB talk, and typical static. There was a signal on my phone. Like nothing had occurred. Everything went back to normal, except that I had lost 4 hours that I couldn't explain. Additionally, my fuel indicator indicated that I had used nearly 3/4 of a tank for a 20-meter diversion. I was unable to provide my dispatcher with an explanation for my delayed delivery. GPS led me on a terrible route, which sounded ridiculous. I hoped no one would challenge my logs, which showed the wasted time. The alternative route was still on my GPS for the next trip, but it was darker and more noticeable, and the expected time savings was shown as -4 hours in red type. It seemed as though the GPS was telling the truth about how much it would cost. That route hasn't crossed my path again, but every time I travel it, it becomes more detailed, and I see things on I-40 that I had never seen before. There are little openings in the barrier, dirt roads that lead into the desert, and locations where you may potentially get off the roadway. I've seen vehicles on I-40 that I'm positive were parked on that side road 3 times now, so I've started counting the trucks I pass heading the other way and mentally noting their descriptions. Everything is the same, even the business colors and old vehicles. However, They are currently driving and moving like regular traffic. And time. As I was going east, I noticed my own vehicle moving west. The license plate, unit number, and firm are all the same. As we went by, the driver gave me a glance, and I just caught a glimpse of his face. My face, only older, weary, and resigned. My GPS began displaying a new feature last week. A notice shows up when I'm close to the alternate route exit. Prior driving experience. 47 cars were rerouted to a different path. In transit as of right now. 47 trucks, presumably still travelling through the peculiar and changing landscape on that road, burning fuel without a goal while passing stationary trucks with drivers observing. At a truck stop, I told another driver about it. My brother drove that route 6 months ago, he said, after becoming silent. Since then, we have not heard from him. His wife claims he never returned home, but the company claims he finished his delivery and left. Additionally, his truck's GPS indicates that he is continuing travelling along a route that is not marked on any map. I retrieved my GPS logs. My record indicates that the alternate path is 22.3 miles long and takes 4 hours and 17 minutes. However, the loop status is incomplete and a return is needed in the smaller text underneath. I have no idea what that implies. Go back to what? How can I get my money back? However, I'm beginning to see why those vehicles were parked there. Why? The drivers did nothing but observe. They had nothing to wait for. They had already reached the end of the route. They had finished the loop. And now they were simply there forever. Component of the road's construction. Now, on every trip, my GPS indicates the other path. The notification has also been modified. 47 automobiles in the driver's past. 46 in transit, 1 assigned as of right now. The person designated is me. The road awaits my return. The loop seeks to be finished. I've tried changing the firmware, resetting my GPS, and even purchasing a new gadget. They all display the same route, the same point of departure, and the same assurance of time savings. Because the GPS is no longer the main focus, it concerns me, somehow. That route has identified me as unfinished. I noticed the gap in the barrier yesterday while travelling east on I-40. I briefly believed I saw myself standing there. Older, weary eyes invite me to finish the loop and wave me in. My position on the GPS briefly jumped to that parallel road, but I continued to drive. Even though I didn't take the exit, a part of me did. Once more, the notification was altered. Return is necessary. The status is past due. How long I can stay on the major roadway is a mystery to me. How long can I resist doing what the GPS says I must do? But I can't get those parked trucks out of my head. Every driver who chose a different path and never returned. There, I can't help but wonder whether I see my own truck parked. Will I wave if I ever find myself riding in a taxi and watching another driver go by? Or will I already be aware that nothing changes when I wave, that the loop is over once you're on the parallel road, and all that's left to do is wait for the next motorist to join. Wait for the next motorist to join. On a Tuesday morning, the training video showed up in my company email. Subject line: a safety review that must be finished in a day. After 8 months of driving for Morrison Freight, I was used to watching training videos on occasion. Typically, they address typical business literature, current legislation, and fundamental safety practices. Anticipating the typical, I clicked on the link. A title card and the Morrison Freight logo appeared at the beginning of the video. Only designated drivers may use the Advanced Route Safety Protocol. Drivers who have been designated. That was a term I had never heard of. The video was of low quality, as if it had been crudely digitized from recordings made decades before. Behind him, a man in an old-fashioned suit sat at a wood-paneled desk. If you're watching this, you've been chosen for special route assignments based on your psychological profile and driving history, he explained. The routes you'll be given call for particular procedures that aren't addressed in regular training. I put the video on hold. Psychological characteristics. For this employment, I had never taken any psychological examinations, only the typical road test, background check, and application. I press play once more. The man went on. Sometimes you'll be given route assignments that don't seem right. Deliveries to hard-to-verify areas can be required of you. You can come into circumstances that appear strange or worrisome. Your work is easy. Don't talk to anyone outside the designated driver program about anything you see. Instead, follow your manifest and finish your delivery. The video shifted to a dashboard camera's nighttime footage on a roadway. A truck traversing the night. The timestamps in the corner were jumping, but otherwise everything was normal. To 47 a.m. then. At 4:23 a.m. then it was to 51 a.m. once more. Time was not passing. It was dispersed. There are some routes that are not part of the usual logistics networks. The voiceover from the man went on. The GPS signal may be lost. You can lose the credibility of your messaging. This is typical. Don't stray from your designated path. Finish the delivery. Go back to the regular highway as directed. The vehicle was seen in the video turning into what appeared to be a warehouse, but there were no lights, no identifying symbols, and no indications that the structure was occupied. After showing 3:15 a.m., the timestamp shifted to 7:42 p.m. and then returned to 3:15 a.m., the speaker said. On these routes, you might see other drivers. You should not try to talk to them. Don't pause to provide help. Don't acknowledge them if they have their own tasks and are a member of the designated driver program. Another vehicle was seen as a loading dock in the video, but the clarity deteriorated and the image flickered. I briefly saw somebody sitting motionless, facing forward, in the cab of the other truck, but they were not moving. The man came back. The selection of designated drivers is based on their ability to follow directions without asking extra questions. Route preference and continuous employment are given to you as a reward for your compliance. All business benefits are forfeited and termination occurs immediately for non-compliance. The video terminated suddenly. Just the Morrison Freight logo and a parting message, no closing credits or contact details. Recognition is necessary. Within a day, a response to this email was confirmed. Sitting there, I gazed at my screen. It must have been a joke, some sort of test, or some strange business hazing ritual. However, the official Morrison Freight domain was the source of the email. The usual training platform was displayed by the video player. I dialed my dispatcher. Have you sent me a designated driver training video? Which video? The statement, I've been selected based on psychological profile, refers to unique routes and advanced processes. A moment of silence. No video was sent by me. Consult HR. HR asserted that they had no documentation of any advanced route procedures, designated driver programs, or training videos of this kind. Are you certain we sent it? The HR representative inquired. It may sound like a phishing attempt, but their system, platform, brand, and format were the sources. I didn't confirm my response to the email. I tried to forget about it and erased it. I was given a new route assignment 2 days later. The delivery address was odd, but the collection location, a distribution center in Ohio, that I had visited previously was typical. In rural Pennsylvania, only GPS coordinates, no contact details or company name. I dialed my dispatcher. This is merely a delivery address. Is that correct? The system is set up that way. Rural consumers occasionally lack official addresses. Simply use your GPS. The pickup proceeded without incident. Warehouse employees sealed and loaded the item, which was identified as industrial equipment. Standard practice. However, something bothered me as I was heading east toward Pennsylvania. This was similar to what was explained in the video. Unreliable delivery that is hard to confirm. My journey off the major highway and onto increasingly remote roads was guided by the GPS coordinates. County roads with 2 lanes, followed by paved roads with 1 lane, and finally gravel roads. My GPS signal wavered but remained steady. I ended up on a dirt road that wound through a dense woodland as sunset drew near. A clearing with a lone warehouse building was reached via the coordinates. Just a concrete building with a loading dock and a single, Low light above the dock door, no signs. No corporate name. No other cars. No sign of a human presence. I waited while backing up to the dock. According to the manifest, delivery was scheduled for 6 p.m. The time was 5:55. I waited for someone to emerge while I sat in my taxi and observed the structure. The dock door opened at precisely 6 p.m., but no one emerged. Beyond the door was nothing but a dark, empty room. I waited for 5 more minutes. Nothing. I exited and walked over to the dock. "Hi there, Morrison Freight Delivery." No answer. Ascending onto the dock, I peered inside. The entire warehouse was deserted. Other than what entered through the dock door, there was no staff, no equipment, and no lights. Just walls and a concrete floor that vanish into the night. There was no one present to sign my manifest, which instructed me to unload and get a signature. Just inside the dock entrance, I saw something on the floor as I was ready to depart. An already completed and signed delivery receipt on a clipboard. I had never provided anyone with my name, delivery time, or even my truck number. The signature was illegible. It was merely a scroll with a red ink message underneath. The designated driver has been confirmed. The next task is on its way. I retreated and picked up the clipboard. This was incorrect. Everything. I got back in my. Everything. I got back in my truck and left as quickly as the dirt road would permit. My phone was flooded with notifications as soon as I got to the paved roadway. My dispatcher missed 12 calls. I received 8 texts asking me where I was and why I had strayed from my intended path. I hadn't strayed, though. I had done my task precisely. I returned the call. "Where have you been?" My dispatcher's voice was irate. "For 4 hours. You were in the dark. No communication. No GPS. Nothing. I delivered it. Returned to the highway just now." "Which delivery?" "Akron was your route to Pittsburgh. Regular freight. And Akron was never picked up by you. According to your GPS, you halted for 4 hours after driving into rural Pennsylvania. I received delivery coordinates from you. Industrial equipment in rural Pennsylvania. Coordinates were never delivered to you. A routine planned delivery to Pittsburgh was your task. Examine your documents." I took my manifest out. It demonstrated just what he had said. To Pittsburgh, Akron. Normal cargo. Typical client. No delivery in rural areas. No coordinates. I was carrying a different manifest than the one I had followed. "Every week," I said. "There must be a mistake in the system. Now go to Pittsburgh. We'll resolve this later." In a few days, I drove to Pittsburgh, made the delivery that I was ostensibly required to make, and attempted to comprehend what had transpired. Was the alternate manifest something I'd imagined? I had the clipboard from that warehouse, but if there had been a system error, I would have been sent in the wrong direction. Tangible evidence. I had brought it along. However, it was gone when I checked my taxi for it. Looked everywhere. It was gone. I received another email that evening. The same headline. "Within 24 hours, the required safety review must be finished." The same video, with an extra clip at the conclusion this time. My truck's dashboard camera footage. It approaches at Pennsylvania facility. The timestamp is 6 p.m. I got out as the dock door opened and walked toward the dock. However, I didn't only use the clipboard in this video. I unloaded the stuff. Everything. Carried boxes, one by one, into the deserted warehouse. The video showed me making several trips and unloading the entire container into that darkness. But the timestamps were incorrect once more and jumped around. That's not anything I recall doing. The video showed something different from what I remembered: the empty warehouse, taking the clipboard and walking away. As I carried the last box inside the warehouse, the last frame froze on my face. I was grinning, but it wasn't my own smile, and I was staring straight into my own dashcam. I looked like someone else was wearing my face because of the incorrect perspective and expression. The message reappeared. "Recognition is necessary." This email was confirmed by the reply. Even if I haven't responded, I continue to receive route assignments to places with just coordinates. They show up in my system, but my dispatcher disputes sending them. Additionally, I consistently make deliveries I can't recall, lose hours I can't account for, and return with manifests that don't match what I was given. I noticed another Morrison freight truck to a rest location last week. The driver appeared to be someone I had seen months prior during orientation. I went over to inquire if he had gotten the training video. Designated drivers don't communicate, he continued, staring at me blankly. Adhere to your manifest. Finish the delivery. He then made his way back to his truck and left. I looked over the company's list. I just spoke with a driver who was reported as having been fired 3 months prior. Now, the email arrives every night. Same message, same video. Recognition is necessary. Additionally, every time there is fresh film at the conclusion, I make deliveries that I can't recall. Me unloading goods at non-existent locales. I was grinning the wrong way. Also, the most recent version of the video showing my truck parked at that Pennsylvania warehouse. Like the driver in the original training film, I was sitting in the cab, facing ahead, completely motionless, and without moving. Although the timestamp indicates today, I haven't visited Pennsylvania in 3 weeks, or at least I don't recall doing so. To keep myself awake on long drives, I began counting trucks. It's merely a mental game. Count the trucks that are traveling in the other direction. Make an effort to recall models and makes. Anything to occupy my mind during those lonesome I-80 nighttime hours. I became aware of the trend on the first night. In 6 hours, I had counted 43 trucks. The route, time, and 43 trucks were all the same the following night. I believed it to be a coincidence. On the third night, I listened more intently. 43 trucks, including a Freightliner, to Peterbilt's, a Kenworth, and a Volvo, all of the same makes and types, same spacing, same order, similar to playing a recording on repeat. At a truck stop, I told another driver about it. Do you ever see the same trucks passing, such as the same ones in the same sequence? He gave me a crazy eyes look. Man, there are thousands of trucks out there. You're simply worn out. However, I wasn't worn out. Now I was listening. I made a note of every truck on the fourth night. When visible, include the time, make, model, and business name. 43 trucks in 6 hours. My list and the mental count I had made the night before matched exactly. The trucks, timing, and order are all the same. I made the decision to test it on the 5th night. At 11:47 p.m., the first truck always showed up, an empty company logo or a red Freightliner. I kept an eye on my clock. The highway was deserted at 11:46. Headlights came into view in the distance at precisely 11:47. No logo, red Freightliner. Then I reached for my CB radio. This is Nighthawk traveling west on I-80. 290 is the mile marker. Is there anyone out there? Not moving. Then a voice. Near 290. This is heading east. What are you in need of? Just now, a red Freightliner passes by. Hold on. It's been 20 minutes since I've seen another truck, buddy. Tonight, the highways are dead. But as the Freightliner went by, I had my eyes on it. Real, solid, and bright headlights in my mirrors. How was it invisible to the eastbound driver? The trend persisted. At 11:52, truck number 2, a white trailer on a Peterbilt. At 12:03, the third truck, another blue cab, older type, Peterbilt. Everything happened precisely on time, all of which other drivers on the CB cannot see. Truck number 7, a Kenworth with recognizable flame markings, should show up at 1:15 a. Reduced my speed, keeping an eye on the road ahead. Nothing at 1:14, with headlights at 11:15. Kenworth on fire. However, I saw something this time. I caught the driver's attention. Not a casual look as we went by. They watched through both of our windows as we passed, turning their heads to follow me. I caught a glimpse of their face in the fleeting headlights. They were counting as well. I could read the number as their lips moved. 38, 39, 40. Number 40 was me. Someone else's count included me. With my heart racing, I stopped at the next rest area, examined my schedule, route, and logbook. Everything was as usual. Regular delivery service between Sacramento and Chicago. I'd travelled that trip dozens of times. Other than this pattern I had found nothing out of the ordinary. Or had I been a part of the pattern all along and just now realized it? At 2 a.m., I woke up my dispatcher by calling him. How many trucks are in operation at our company? Tonight, I'm heading west on I-80. Why? His voice was annoyed. I simply must know. 10, perhaps 15. Why do you ask? And heading east, likewise. What's going on here? Nothing. I was just wondering. I ended the call. There should be hundreds of trucks, not just 43. If our company alone had 25 trucks on I-80 tonight and other companies were operating their own fleets, particularly on a weeknight, the roadway ought to be crowded. However, all I was seeing was 43, the same 43 each night. That rest place was not where I slept. I resumed my count after getting back on the freeway. Trucks 8 through 43 showed up on time. 5:23 a.m. The Volvo with the yellow trailer, which always brought the series to a close, was the 43rd truck to pass. Nothing for the next hour after that. Not a single truck. Despite the approaching morning, when traffic should be expected to increase, the highway was virtually deserted. I pulled into a truck stop for fuel around 6:30 a.m. There were 3 more trucks, so I went up to one of the drivers. Tonight, you were on I-80. Yes, it just arrived. Why? Observe a lot of traffic. Dead. Strangely deceased. Over the course of the night, I think I counted 5 trucks. Not 43, but 5. He had noticed a distinct pattern and a different number. I inquired with the other drivers. 12 trucks had been counted. 37. Another said. We had all travelled the same roadway at the same time, but our individual numbers and patterns differed. The motorist, who had recorded 37, appeared distressed. Do you know what's strange? Last night and the night before, I counted the same 37 trucks. Same timing, same order. We contrasted notes. My pattern wasn't the same as his. Different vehicles, different order, but equally repetitive and predictable. It might just be standard routes. The same companies with the same schedules were recommended by one driver. However, that didn't account for the accuracy, the precise time, the fact that not everyone could see the trucks, or the way the driver had been counting me as I went by. I drove my route once more that evening. The red Freightliner arrived at 11:47 p.m., veered into the left lane and drove parallel to it, matching its speed. The driver glanced over. Once more, their lips moved in silence as they counted. On the dashboard, though, I could see what they were counting this time. There are hundreds of tally markings. Groups of 43 repeatedly occupied every available space. They put up a piece of paper to their window while glancing at me. In marker 487, there is a number. After that, they quickly returned to the pattern. I didn't comprehend. What is 487? Trips, days, and tallies. I stuck to my path. The 43 trucks showed up on time. However, I was now paying more attention to the drivers. Some were simply moving their lips, while others were counting on paper or dashboards. They're all recording and tracking something. For about a minute, truck number 26, a Mack with a refrigerated trailer, kept up with me, long enough for a sign to be held up by the driver. How many evenings? I was unsure of how to respond. I was counting how many nights. 5. How many times, though, had I driven this road and failed to see the pattern? Months, years. Another sign was held up by the driver. Your number 40 all the time. A chill went through my chest. 40 is always the number, not tonight only. Always. Taking out a piece of paper, I wrote, "Who's counting?" The driver gestured in front of them, at all of us, at the roadway. After then, they fell back into the routine. The 43rd truck passed at 5:23 a.m. However, I made an attempt this time. At the next intersection, I made a U-turn and resumed my eastbound drive in the direction I had come. I was supposed to be leaving the pattern at 5:30 a.m. However, I noticed the first truck at 5:31. From my vantage point, the same crimson freight vessel was presently moving west. Next came the second truck, followed by the third. Once more, the pattern was repeating. However, I was going in the incorrect way. These trucks shouldn't be in this order when I see them. Unless it was a pattern of direction, it was all about myself and my role. Number 40 would always be me, and the 40 to other vehicles would constantly align themselves with that fact. I halted the vehicle in the middle of the highway, no matter which way I drove, sitting in the right lane, hazards on, engine running. The trend persisted. The sequence was maintained as trucks passed me on the left, one every few minutes. They didn't all stop, except for vehicle number 41. None of them admitted that I had broken the pattern. It came up to me after slowing down. The driver's window was rolled down. They said, "You can't stop. It doesn't operate that way." How does it operate? The count. You must keep your position once you're in the pattern. Someone must take your position if you cease. Replace me as what? They gestured toward their dashboard. There are tally marks everywhere. 41. For 6 years. I've been number 41. Previously, I was number 18. I was number 3 before that. When someone in front of you drops out, you go up, disappears. How? Their eyes were weary as they gazed at me. You'll see. Continue driving. Hold on to your position. Avoid attempting to break the pattern. They took off in their car. I remained seated for 5 more minutes. Then, in contrast to the pattern, a vehicle showed up in my rearview mirror. It was a truck I had never seen. The driver got out as it approached me from behind. They approached my window. A young motorist, possibly in their mid-20s, appears worried and perplexed. They said my GPS died. I've spent hours lost. I finally located the roadway. Are you struggling? I glanced at them, at my dashboard, where I had inadvertently begun writing my own tally marks, and at the roadway in front of me, where truck number 42 was coming up exactly on time. No, I replied. No trouble. I'm just leaving. I took off in my car, repositioned myself in the pattern because I had no other choice, allowing that young driver to replace me, make them number 40, and begin counting was the alternative. 3 weeks have passed since then. Since then, I've been counting each night. The same order, the same 43 trucks. I'm number 40 all the time. Additionally, I've begun to notice something else. Older and slower is truck number 39. The driver appears worn out. Their dashboard's tally marks are getting crowded. They will probably drop out soon, in my opinion. Everyone advances one position when they do. I'm going to be number 39, and I'll be replaced as number 40 by someone else. Someone who will believe they have found a pattern over their first few evenings. Someone will attempt to shatter it. Someone who would understand that the pattern is something you become rather than something you find, as I did. My GPS stopped functioning at 11:45 p.m. last night. It displayed my position incorrectly when it turned back on at 11:48, as if I had leapt 2 miles back to where number 40 would have been at precisely 11:47 p.m. The pattern is no longer being driven by me. The trend is motivating, longer being driven by me. The trend is motivating. Emmy. At 3 in the morning, the inspection notice showed up on my tablet. Inspections must be conducted at random. Go out 247. Head to the inspection station. I had undergone numerous inspections. They were standard. I went out. It was dark in the inspection station. Just a weigh scale and a little building. I was signaled forward by a man wearing a luminous vest. Without looking up, he said, "License, registration, and logbook." I gave them to them. He looked at me every now and then as he studied them too long. "What are you transporting?" "Electronics. Ohio to Nevada sealed cargo." I must examine the cargo. This was not like the norm. Since then, the trailer has been sealed. Crack it open. I opened the doors after cutting the seal. 18 pallets with securely fastened shrink-wrap boxes. Using a torch, the inspector climbed inside. "Open this pallet," he yelled after a few minutes. I made a cut in the shrink wrap. Computer monitors that matched the list exactly. He looked at it for a while. "Hold on in your taxi. Stay put." He entered. I was on the phone, watching him through the windows. 20 minutes later, A simple white van pulled up. He was joined inside by two suit-clad individuals. The inspector came back. "What is the duration of your driving today?" "Within my Hosea limits, 7 hours. I want you to come out and join me." "Why? What's happening?" "I only need to confirm a few details." One of the people in suits, a woman, came forward inside. "Verify your path. 4 days ago, you were taken up in Ohio." "Indeed. Are there any detours?" "No. The usual path." "Did you see anything out of the ordinary at that period?" "Are there more cars pursuing you?" "No. Nothing out of the ordinary." "What's going on here?" The question was disregarded by her. "Since loading." "Have you opened your trailer?" "It's been sealed." "No. We must check the contents. This could take a few hours." "A few hours? I have a deadline for delivery. Until we've confirmed the contents, you won't leave." "We suspect that your shipment manifest might not be true." They unloaded all of the boxes, opened them, and took pictures of the contents for 3 hours. The phone in the building was dead at the time. No one responded to my inquiries. The woman returned at last. "Everything is in line with your manifest. It's okay for you to load again. That's all." After 3 hours, everything is good. Routine confirmation. Go ahead and reload. I personally reloaded each box. 1 more hour. 4 hours had gone by the time I got back on the freeway. I dialed my dispatcher. "Exit 247 does not have an inspection station. That exit is just an old rest area that has been closed for 2 years," he stated. I was merely present. Complete setup. I obtained documents. "Your truck has no logged inspections. Records show that you have not been inspected." Each box was opened. Took 3 hours. "Did they provide you with any paperwork?" I looked. No documentation. Nothing. The warehouse manager tallied the pallets when I delivered in Nevada. He said, "You're missing one." No. I did count 18 pallets. Together, we recited 17. There was only 1 pallet left. He claimed it must have been a loading error. However, there was no loading error. I had reached 18 after the delivery inspection. 17. Records showed that I had never been inspected, and 1 pallet had vanished. There was no such station. There was no documentation for the 4-hour delay. I got a new route last week. Same delivery, same pickup. The dispatch letter advises staying away from exit 247. Unauthorized inspection actions have been reported. The business was aware that something was going on there. I took the route by car. I continued on as I got closer to exit 247, but in my mirror, I noticed another truck pulling onto that exit. Same business as mine. I reached for my CB. A driver heading west is using exit 247. "It's Nighthawk here. That static isn't official." And then another voice. "Inspection is necessary. Head to the station. Citations will be issued for non-compliance." My tablet's words were the same. "To anyone was coming," broadcast over CB. I continued driving. At the next truck stop, I checked the news. No trucks are missing. Drivers finished their routes regardless of what transpired at that station. They just brought 1 pallet with them. Records also show that they were never inspected. I have no idea what they're searching for. What was in that missing pallet is unknown to me. Other drivers are still being guided there, but I'm not sure who those people in suits were. Pallets are going missing, and I'm aware that whatever is being taken out is significant enough that someone might set up a phony inspection station and erase official documents. Yesterday, I received another message. Ohio to Nevada is a new route. Exit 247 is a recommended route for fuel stop efficiency. They've warned me away and are now recommending that I return. I'm being routed through there now. I haven't replied because I want to know if that initial inspection was truly random. Perhaps I was transporting something specific that needed to be taken out, and this additional route is giving someone another chance to verify what I'm actually transporting, or to ensure that I deliver precisely 17 pallets rather than 18, with no one ever noticing the difference. I never asked for the stop that my route planner began adding. A planned 15-minute pause at a Missouri rest spot. I removed it. It returned the following day. I made a dispatch call. Why does my route include a scheduled stop? No scheduled halt appears to me. Ignore it. I made an effort to ignore it. However, my app would occasionally crash, adding miles and sending me in circles each time I went by that rest place without pausing. It wasn't stable until I returned and paused for precisely 15 minutes. I finally caved in after the third time. As I began my planned stop, I became aware of something. Every time I arrived at the rest area, it was vacant, and at precisely 14 minutes into my stop, someone would show up. Every time, a different vehicle, a different person, and the same time. After parking, they would go to the restroom, wait for a minute, and then depart. Never gave me credit, simply went about their business as usual and left after my allotted 15 minutes were up. One of them I followed on my 7th stop, a man in his middle years. He entered the restroom. After waiting for 30 seconds, I followed. There was nobody in the restroom. The man was gone, but there was only one room, one stall, no windows, and no exits. I kept a close eye on the door during the following stop. A woman in an SUV entered. No one emerged. I looked inside. She had left. I waited in the restroom before anyone arrived at my 10th stop. I heard footsteps at the 14-minute point. The door opened. No one entered. No one was there when I heard footsteps cross the doorway. The door shut. Silence, followed by footsteps to the stall. Footsteps came back a minute later. The door swung open and shut. I looked over the stall. Empty. However, something fresh was present. On the wall, a new tally mark. Upon closer inspection, I saw hundreds of them. The walls are marked from years of use. I looked up details regarding the restroom. I saw an article from 8 years ago. For repairs, the restroom is temporarily closed. However, I gave the Missouri a call. Since 2017, that facility has been shuttered. No access, gates locked. However, when I stopped there were no gates. I took the route once more. I walked the final quarter mile before arriving at the rest spot. There was a rest facility, although it was dilapidated and outdated. Boarded windows, a broken parking lot, a sign on a chain-link fence, a locked building, and no access. However, for 3 weeks, I had been parking inside that barrier twice a week. I led the halt and went on. The app malfunctioned once more inside 20 meters. It would continue till I returned. I returned. The fence was gone by the time I got close. The restroom appeared to be in working order. I parked. I immediately followed and stayed right behind the person when they went to the restroom at the 14-minute mark. There was nobody in the restroom. They were gone. However, I noticed a new tally mark near the door. One added my own mark after removing my keys. The wall has one scratch on it. When I got there on the following trip, two people were already parked and observing me. At 14 minutes, they both exited and headed together to the restroom. I looked inside. Empty. They both disappeared. There are 2 new tally markings. When I got there yesterday, 6 cars were parked and 6 people were observing my truck. Right now, I'm writing this. 13 minutes passed. The 6 remain in their cars and continue to stare. There is 1 minute left. According to my app, attendance is necessary in the notes section. There is a permanent deviation for a non-compliance. I looked through my company's database for permanent deviation, discovered a list of drivers who had been fired throughout the previous 8 years. All 17 names were removed for permanently deviating from the planned path. Satellite photos of this rest facility, taken 8 years ago, show 17 names and 17 automobiles. They're all still present in the pictures today. Identical spots. It's been 8 years since I relocated. I just reached 0 on my timer. The 6 of them left. Instead of going to the restroom, they're heading for my pickup. The planned pause is not a respite. This is a period of replacement. And by leaving my imprint on the wall, I offered my assistance. My truck is surrounded by 6 people. I recently updated my app. The planned halt is finished. Get out of the car. Go to the specified location. A new driver is en route to take over the route. I notice headlights coming up. 1 more truck. Same business as mine. Thank you for your service, the app displays. Your job has been filled. My doors simply unlocked by themselves. The 6 are reaching in and opening them. My replacement is currently arriving. I know what goes on in those 15 minutes. You remain in the rest area. You join the count while you wait for the upcoming planned.